but I went to, and I created solar DC. And then I started installing these systems. And where do you install it? First place, because everybody is dead opposed, you installed it in your office. I converted my whole office to DC. And I remember everything was then fully DC, and I was using it. Even my colleague Dr. Bhaskar Ramamurthy, we converted his room to DC, and our rooms are opposite each other. There was a corridor, and I will see my faculty colleagues, other faculty colleagues will come, walk like this, they will look into my room and run away as if there is a demon sitting there. They used to look, they do not even come inside and check. DC. One day I persuaded, after 1 or 2 days, for one of the colleagues to come in. He came, he saw, where is DC? He looked around my room. I had a television, I had lighting, fan, I was working on my laptop. After some time he sat down, he said, this is all DC. I said, everything is DC. He said, it does not look different. I said, that is what we made. Tube lights look the same, my laptop, I am using the same laptop, my cell phone charger is same, television is same, I have taken the DC point out. It took some time to convince them. But you know, then a very, very interesting incident took place, which really changed the minds of people, at least at IITs, and I started getting IIT Madras and then with other IITs. 2016, I do not remember, was it 15 or 16, you were there. There was a huge December, huge flood at Chennai. Suddenly water level went up, rain, huge rain, and some mistake because the chief minister was sleeping and nobody will wake up, and therefore a dam water was not removed, and the Chennai started filling up. You will remember, and water came to many homes above the first, up to the first floor. Ground floor was all filled up. The whole place was filled. When that happened, all the power lines got power distribution station, power stations, everything broke down. Everything, all the transformer, water will get waterlogged. Even if some transformers were a little bit higher, some part of the equipment was on the ground. Complete dark for 4 days, no power. People started using diesel generator. The place where they put diesel generator, that was also flooded. They had some diesel generator tanks, they were waterlogged. So, you could not even use that, no emergency power. The cell phone towers were all powered using electricity and diesel generator, they also got flooded, no communication. 4 days Chennai city had no power, no communications. There was my home. I had a 125 watt very small solar panel, this size, DC. I was bringing it to my home from the rooftop. I had a small battery, half a kilowatt hour, that was lead acid battery, and was powering lights and fans in my home. And I had a electronics plug point for my cell phone and laptop. When the power fell everywhere, of course, first my home had power. First few hours home will have power, but my power remained. I of course knew that since there is no power, by now we knew what is happening. I kind of preserved and minimize, I was alone at my home, minimize the power consumption. I will turn on only one light and one fan. And when I go for the kitchen, I will turn the kitchen light and maybe turn off this light, sometimes 2 lights, lights was not that much. I was charging my cell phone. Cell phone does not work, except if I go to the rooftop of my building, I can get a tower which is far away. So, I could make even phone calls. Of course, others also did that, except their cell phones stopped working after some time. My cell phone will go back, charge. Some of the neighbors came and I charged their cell phone also, and they will go and even make calls. I thought, I was very worried. It happened around 4 p.m. one day. That evening, night, it continued. Next day, power was there in my home everywhere. By now, I know there is nowhere else there is a power. I thought it will last for few more hours, maybe it will go away. But fortunately, it lasted that day. I was certain the next day I will not get power. And by now, we knew the power will not be restored for another couple of days. Fortunately, the sunlight came out. By next second day, afternoon, around 4 o'clock, the sunlight was there after 24 hours. As soon as the sunlight came out, my solar panel was working, my battery started charging. Remember that I told you it is the most robust power, and next day it was a full sunlight and I had plenty of power. 4th day, I invited lots of friends to my home, say we will cook together and eat, and we did that. 3rd day, 4th day, and power was there, we enjoyed, while rest of the people were not. Everybody was charging their cell phone. We used to go to the rooftop and get, meantime 1 or 2 cell towers were restored. So, we knew where to stand to get connected. I downloaded all my mails. I will take my laptop, I had cell phone, through that I could download. It was just starting to get, it was still 2G, it was still not 4G, probably just about coming, 3G maybe. So, it worked. That experience sort of said how robust it will be. Unfortunately, very unfortunately, even after telling all these stories and all things, government does not move. The officers start saying again the same thing as my colleague said, are you taking the country backward? This is I will try to produce, as I said, solar panel, 230 volt AC, 230 volt grid. Typical inverter has a 97% efficiency. So, but if solar panel is 200 watt, the losses can be 15%. That is the point that I was making. So, if I take solar, I do a DC to AC conversion, there is a 15% loss, then I put it into the battery, again AC to DC converter, 15% loss, DC to AC, another 15% loss, you got 45% loss. And that is the time I came up with this concept called solar DC. I said grid power, when it is available, I will convert it to DC, everything will remain DC. 48 volt DC, why 48 volt? What is the highest safe voltage? I do not need too much safety thing, and that is what I did. My loss became 7% in these conversion, and I could design everything such that I could get very, very good load. The most interesting thing is directly powered DC load. So, both grid and can be full, even when there is a load shedding, battery powers load, and solar delivered with such high this thing. I found that AC fans instead of 72 watts was running at 30 watts, at speed 1 it was still running at consuming 60 watts, this consumes only 9 watts. Lights were consuming from 36 to 15, and of course, there was no say tube light at DC, here it consumes only 4 watts at lowest intensity. And I started powering this. Why is 48 volt chosen? Safe voltage, highest safe voltage, you do not need any protection. Lower voltage will give rise to more current, and more current means higher I square R losses. Same argument that was the earlier I talked about, you want highest possible safe voltage. So, 48 volt chosen. Even this, there was no consensus in the country. We created a committee at Department of Science and Technology with 5 IIT directors on the committee. They said that 48 volt is the best. MNRE refused, Ministry of New Renewable Energy. They will not accept this. They wanted 12 volts. Why? Because Chinese implements were coming at 12 volts. And all these lobbying companies which are importing things, they have enough influence with both the ministers and the officials, and they will treat us roughly. But we made this system 125 watt solar panel, and this is a system which will go and power a small home, and everything was there. Initially it was a lead acid battery, later on we converted it into a lithium ion battery. Piyush Goyal became Minister of Power. He is a good friend of mine. Earlier we were on State Bank of India board together. So I contacted him. I went and met him. He was somewhat convinced. I somehow persuaded him to come and visit. By now lots of homes at IIT Madras were powered using solar DC. And there were demo rooms, etc., everything with solar DC. I took him there. He had brought his officers. He says, "What? See all this? What do you say?" He says, no, but this will take country backward." He himself, even being minister, could not overrule them. Even PMO was not convinced that DC is the way to go. He then called a meeting in Delhi and then said, "Okay, I will accept that AC is the way to go, DC is bad, but tell me, in this Rajasthan desert where there is a sand, you are not able to take any power?" He says, "No, very difficult to take, all homes are scattered, very difficult, costs are very high, we are not powering that." There are 5,000 homes or more. He asked me, what if I asked Jhunjhunwala to power those 5,000 homes with solar DC? They were somewhat reluctant, we are going backward in technology. But anyway, we have no plan to power that, go ahead and give. That was the first break that I was given to actually power, and we created LEDs, remote control, cell phone charger, LED tube light, all of this we created, desert cooler, the televisions, mixer, grinder, refrigerator, stove, and then we went to Rajasthan, to desert areas where you couldn't go take things except on camels or you can walk. There were some tractors which could go, tractors with those heavy wheels, and we started connecting these 4,000 homes, and then we found the same situation exists in Assam hills, Meghalaya, Manipur, and Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Over the next 3 years, one by one, I was asked to power homes in these areas, 60,000 homes under the Prime Minister's Yojana we actually powered. The ministry is still not convinced. They still believe in AC. We wanted DC to become the optional, but we actually did powering schools, individual homes. There are places where people saw power for the first time. Villages, now I can give students my homework. School suddenly had power. This was a school that we powered. We powered homes. The people who could work suddenly do work in the evening. This is what happened. This could have been the biggest story for India, but the Indian politics and bureaucrats, I think in this case scientists finally got onto my side, took time. There are few people still who were sold. The Chinese imports of lower voltage is what is the way to go. And solar DC, this is actually the home that we have created in our research park. It saves power, it saves. My home still has DC power, but it saves significantly the power, but India overall was not convinced. In the meantime, of course, you have a lower losses converter. Power electronics has helped us get there, and the battle of AC versus DC is still not won. It should have been, India should have been the leader. Electric vehicles, all DC powered. India was not able to win the DC battle because we refused to win. I went to the Prime Minister, I went to everybody. They are not willing to go against the world, as anyone else in the world is doing it. There are IEEE forums around the world now which is for DC, believe that DC is the way forward, but no, everybody else has connected everything using AC. They do not have to do fresh connection, they will wait till that those things go die down and maybe DC may come then. What Tesla tries to do at homes is through the battery of DC, but overall we should have been the leader. By now we should have taken DC all over the world. We refused to do this. Thank you. And I think with this I will end, and hopefully you have learned. There are of course couple of more lectures. Solve your problems. Exams will be very similar to what assignment problems that you do, and so if you do all your assignments well, you should have no problem in writing the exam. We will have one more interaction in the first week of October. Exam is the second half of October. So, we will have in first week of October, we will send you a link and we will have an interaction. Thank you very much.